Okay, I'm going to show you a couple different painting techniques for the opening of our painting studio. And some things you always need are going to be a cup of water, and you're also going to need some brushes. You can do one brush or you can grab two. I wouldn't grab too many, but it's nice to get a thick one and a thin one because they make different lines. I'm also going to use some drawing tools. I'm using crayons, white and colored, and then I'm using an oil pastel. So it works really well with white, but because you can't see it, I'm also going to do it with red. But we're going to do a technique called resist. And resist is when the wax and the crayon makes it so that the paint cannot go over it. So anything you do in the crayon will show through the painting. With watercolor, you want to get your brush nice and wet so that you can get some paint on your brush. If you use no water, it'll be super dry, but you don't want to use too much water. Otherwise, the resist technique won't work. So as you can see, I'm painting over the oil pastel and it's showing through, even though it's white, even though I'm painting over it. Now, the other technique I'm going to show you is called wet on wet. And it's when we use just clean water first on the paper, and then we use our paint. So then we use our watercolor or our tempera paint, which is the paint that's on the left. So once I get my paper nice and wet, I don't want to get it too wet because otherwise it'll ruin the paper. But you make this kind of tie-dye technique by just doing little dots of color and they blend into each other. So it can be a really cool way to create skies or backgrounds, or if you're just trying to see what happens when you mix two colors. And if it's not blending the way you want, you just want to add a little bit more water to the paint when you put it um, on the watered down paper. So we used watercolors for all these techniques, but you can try the tempera cakes, which is these paints on the left. These ones are going to be more opaque, which means they're a little darker, less see-through. Our watercolors are pretty transparent. That's what makes them really light and see-through. But the tempera cakes are a little bit darker and a little bit thicker. So you can try to blend them in all different ways. It might be a little bit different than the watercolors. So it may not resist the same way, and the wet on wet may not work the same, but it'll still do something cool. So you should try both and let me know what you think.